Record. So, welcome to our second
Hi
episode.
guys. I'm not gonna lie, I did not know I was already recording, but that went very quick. How's everyone doing? It is episode 2 officially of the Amplifying Black Voices project.
And this one is being recorded in the podcast room, so that's
Official bougie equipment out here.
Exactly.
We leveling up. But yeah, so basically we're just gonna kind of give a rundown a bit more in depth of who we are, why we decided to do this, and just real like background information, and just getting a little bit deep and serious.
It's probably funny as well.
Fun,
hopefully.
of course, you know what I'm saying?
With Casey, you always have a jam, so yeah. Okay, Casey. So, who are you?
I am. Oh, who am I? I am a full-time student, part-time model, worker of 3 jobs, struggling. Honestly, struggling out here. But what's called with great goals, like, born in Holland.
Okay.
Are we hearing that?
Oh,
it was the phone, right? Okay.
I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
I we wasn't quiet. We were like, what is that? But yeah, what's called like born in Holland, in a very different culture to England. Moved here quite young. Moved back and forth. Like I moved over 25 times in the space of 10 years.
Jeez.
So yeah, I've moved a lot. So it's like I've experienced a lot, and I would say that's all really shaped who I am. Like my mom always says, I'm a wereldburger, and that's like a person of the world, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, because we move so often, you're just a person of the world. Like I look like I could fit anywhere with any culture. I just embrace any culture. It's just, you're a person of the world.
Do you see yourself settling down in one place in the future?
Honestly, like, I don't. I have never wanted to own a house. Like, for myself, I've always wanted to own a house to rent out. But I've always loved living in flats and apartment and moving. Like, since I was a kid, I loved moving. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say it didn't mess with me mentally sometimes, but I love it. Like, I crave it. Like, when I'm in a place for too long, like, I start, like, itching. Like, my mom literally says, I've only lived in a place longer than 2 years twice. Everything else has been less. Well, we move so often, and that now it's, like, having stability is, like... Mm-hmm. I'm not used to it at all, you know? Yeah, it's just like, what is it? But,
okay.
Yeah, I love it.
And do you feel like that kind of mirror into your, like, cultural view, like, the way you see yourself culturally? Like, what's your culture? And do you feel like, because you're always moving around, you're probably a bit fluid when it comes to your culture?
I
do you feel like that
really
had an impact?
I don't think it's just, like, culture. Even culture, religion, like, everything. Like, my mom didn't... I might say in a weird way, but my mom didn't raise me with a culture. I was although, respect to cultures, and I love that, I was very lucky to just be kind of like raised as myself. Like, I didn't have anything to live up to. I didn't have anything to, like, I wasn't a reflection of anything or anyone. I'm just a reflection of me.
Oh, that's
know
beautiful.
What I mean?
Yeah, that's
and I love that. So it's like, and although, like, when I'm in Holland, I think it's a bit different because there's a really big Surinamese population, but I grew up here quite a bit. So it's like, if I had a Nigerian best friend, I learned her culture. A lot of people ask me now, are you Nigerian? And I'm like, no, not at all. Not even an ounce. I just grew up with her. Like, I lived with her for, I think, a year as well. And then it's like, I'm very open to, like, different religions. And my mom is always like, learn about everything and just immerse yourself and like you just become a person of the world, and I think that's like my goal. Like I just go around everything. I'm just with everyone, a bit of everything.
And maybe like getting a bit controversial, do you feel like, has anyone ever accused you of cultural appropriation? Because you're so fluid, I assume that can be something that can come across as you being...
You know what? Never. Which I find really strange, because I've thought about it before, like, oh, will it come across that way? But, like, naturally, as a person, I am Asian, I am white, and I am black, South American. And so it's like, I think because normally people know that, they know, like, when I'm doing things, or like if I want to wear an Asian dress, like for my mom's wedding, we all wore Asian inspired clothes. but that is my culture.
Yeah.
Technically, they know that is my
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
And it's like, although I'm from Suriname, as everyone knows, that was like, I know what plantation I come from in Suriname. And it's like, I know my family was slaves. Like, we all know our history. So it's like, I don't know what country, African country I'm from. So I'd rather embrace everything and everyone than be like, I'm not African at all. You know, I'm South American, because I know my people weren't actually from South America.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I love Surinamese culture. And everyone that sees me in Holland thinks that. So I've never really been accused. Yeah, never. Like, I think
that was a very like harsh word, but
no, I think no, it's fair. Like, because I've thought about it before, and like I've spoken to my mom about it before, because like I feel like the lines are so fine, but for me, I've just never seen them until it became a big thing on like social media. I never really like
paid attention to it.
Yeah, because obviously I grew up with a Asian mum who kind of looks white, but who raised me, or people would say stereotypically black, right? So it's like I didn't see, like, my mom wore braids when I was young, but that was normal to me.
Yeah.
And she did it in a very respectful way. And like, everyone that sees her with braids, they don't find it weird, because, you know, and it was just never like a different thing to me. I was never like culture appropriating until I saw Kim Kardashian. That was it. That Kim Kardashian.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, that sits wrong with my spirit.
Yeah.
And I didn't know why, because I never had an issue with it. But I was like, it doesn't feel right, you know? And that was the first time I was really like, maybe, you know, there is something to it. So now I'm a bit more like cautious of it. But at the same time, I'm like, I respect it. Like, I just feel like, you know, I'm just immersed in it.
That's the duality about this new wave backlash that we have around cultural appropriation. Is like, at the same time you want people to get to know your culture,
exactly,
but at the same time you have to be able to tell them, like, to set the boundaries, like, so straight, if you know what I mean. With
you, because obviously, like, Portuguese and you've got Angolan, like, did you feel a difference? Because I didn't grow up with culture, but I assume that you did.
Yeah, I did.
Did you feel like that difference, or that like divide
between Angolan and Portuguese culture? Yes and no.
Or like white and black, like.
Yeah, that's the thing. As I said in the previous episode, is that I've never been seen completely as black, but at the same time I've never been seen completely as a white person. In terms of culture, there's not much of a difference, because it's Portugal and Angola. Because Angola, used to be colonized by Portugal. You still have in roots the Portuguese traditions and the culture, but and also they're both like warm countries, in the sense of people are very warm, people are very connected to one another. It's not like, for example, Angola and Russia or something like that, where people like this, like, they kind of build a bigger distance between one another. I guess the thing where it sets apart between Angola and Portugal was probably just like the way you carry yourself in publics. Maybe I feel like in Portugal people are a bit more cold expression.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, when you get to know them, it's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
But on the outside,
it's like that bitch face.
Yeah,
like, yeah.
Exactly.
Excuse my language. I just realized. Right.
But in Africa, it's everything everyone is so like open, so like smiley faces. They don't see a bad intention into everything that you do.
Right.
Whereas in Portugal, you have to be like a much more calculus person in the way you behave around people, so they don't get to think that you're this or that.
Right. Okay.
So that's one of the things that I had to learn, because I lived in Angola 6 years and my foundation is African, right? So naturally, I'm a very open person and I trust everything to everyone. Yeah. Maybe that's a bad thing, but I trust everything to everyone. And I had to learn how to kind of reduce that attitude. I kind of had to learn how to
protect yourself.
Yeah, how to be more protective over my own like aura.
Yeah, that makes sense. Your energy.
Yeah, energy, exactly. I think that's the main difference. It's like on the inside they're pretty much the same, but on the outside, like culturally, I think they just have that how do you say, like that extra,
right, that external, like
external
difference.
Exactly, that external defense, like
so
I think that's probably because when I moved to Portugal, like the society at that time, they're still like very post dictatorship. Is that how you say? Yeah. So people were still like figuring out how to be in a society where men and women can be together and people can have voices and all that, because I'm very opinionated.
Opinionated.
Yeah, I'm very opinionated myself, and that comes from my African culture, which is we voice it out, our emotions. It's something that my mom always taught me, which is you have to voice out your emotions. You have to be assertive with your emotions so people can understand what you're saying, so people can understand you, and then from there you guys can build something. Either you set yourselves apart or you build something together. But in Portugal, things were not like that, and they have that.
They're more passive.
Exactly.
I get what you mean. That was me for Holland and England. England is very passive
compared to Holland.
Compared to Holland, England is very passive.
I always assume they were the same, but
yeah, like in Holland, like I have been called out by so many people for being rude, when it's like, no, I'm not necessarily rude. I'm a very honest. Yeah. Like you, like I say how I feel. Like it's like there is nothing, like I don't feel that sugarcoating thing. I don't feel I really had to learn that coming here. Like my mom always told me, question everything. Yeah. Don't ever just do anything anyone tells you to do. Yeah. So if the teacher would be like, do this, why? Yeah. Why would I do that? Exactly. So give me a reason, you know? Exactly. But then they don't like that because they see that as like questioning authority. And then I'd call my mom and I'd be like, he's not telling me why. And then she'd be like, so you have to explain to her why. Like, she's not going to go into detention until you explain to her why. Why, exactly. You know? Whilst here, I feel like it's more like, keep your head down, do what you get told. Yeah. And it's like, that's not used to that. In Holland, it's very much like, I feel like it's very like outspoken as well. That's the same, that applies to me, but compared to Angola. Yeah, Angola, that's interesting. In Angola, we definitely have more freedom, I guess, freedom of expression. Right. Freedom, at least where I'm come from. Obviously. Yeah, no, we're speaking from our experiences. Yeah, like the area where I come from. So it might be biased, but exactly. It's from what we I'm not from the capital where you have a more flow of people going in and out. But yeah, honestly, I feel more free when I'm back home in Africa than back home to Portugal, for example. I can do whatever, act whatever, and there's not really a lot of stigmas. Obviously, you still have to keep in line with what you're supposed to do. Obviously, you have that in every you have that in every society, but you just feel free because they're like, I feel like at least in Angola, the goal is just to live life, just to smile, enjoy life. There's no thinking about goals, thinking, I need to, in 5 years time, I need to have this, I need to have this. It's not busy. You're not like, it's not busy. You're not chasing stuff. You're just enjoying whatever comes. It's very like carpe diem. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. It is very carpe diem. And I was actually talking with my dad because he got a job offer to go back to Angola. And I asked him like, why you want to go back? Like, because normally people associate like moving to Europe with like the big thing, like it's the change that everyone needs. Yeah. But why you want to go back to Africa since it's a underdeveloped country? And he says like he's white, he's Portuguese. And I was gonna say like explain your ethnicity. My dad is Portuguese, 100% Portuguese, and then my mom, she's Angolan, 100% Angolan. And then they had me, I'm half. And to continue the story, and my dad said, like, in Angola, I live life. In Africa, I enjoy my life. And here, I wake up, 8 a.m., I start work. I finish work at 6, get home, have a shower, watch TV, and do the same thing all over again. And then you get 2 weeks off to relax. That's what my mom wants to do as well. Mom's like, she wants to go live, like, a slow pace life, like just like the way you actually appreciating things. The thing is, I was like, I've always lived in, I'd say quite like developed, air quotation marks, country. Like I've obviously like Holland, England, and even like traveling, I've gone mostly Europe and like Canada. Like I've never really gone that far outside of it, but that like I've always really appreciated that kind of lifestyle. You know, personally, I don't think I'll ever be able to do it. just because I'm very much, I need to be busy. Like, otherwise I feel so useless. But it's like, I can definitely like appreciate like the beauty in it. There's definitely a beauty. And like,
I feel like once you're getting old, you kind of shift towards more of a slow pace environment. So I'll give that to my dad. I'll give that to my dad. But another question that I was gonna ask you is that like, if growing up you ever had any crisis, like identity crisis, because you like a mix of a lot of
I'll explain
culture.
what I'm mixed from.
Okay.
So my mom, on my mom's side, my grandma is Indonesian and my granddad is from Jordan. At least that's what I've been told. Because there is some shady grey areas with her side of the family, but we're not going to address that. And then on my dad's side, he's from Suriname, which is, depending on who you are, either a Caribbean country or a South American country, because people want to fight over that. But the thing is, I didn't grow up with family, basically. Like, I had my immediate family, so I had like my mom and my sister were really the two people I grew up with. And then like even my brothers, they weren't around as much, And then like my extended family on both sides had issues with either each other, or my dad's side had issues with my mom, and my mom's side had issues with my dad. And like my mom's side, well, at least my grandma never really took a liking to my mom's kids. So there was always a distance there. But I think because like I recognized that young, and it's gonna sound so messed up, but because I saw that like my white side, I call my Indonesian side my white side, but like that side, my Asian side, treated me the exact same way that my black side did. I saw that everyone can technically like just be mean, so it wasn't like, where do I belong? Because I didn't want to belong to either one of them. I didn't want to belong to either one of them. So I was always, that's why like my mom raised me with culture really helped me, because I was always very independent, and I knew who I was from a very young age. And I'm not going to try and fit in with a place that doesn't want me, or that doesn't value me or respect my mother. I'm not going to do that. And it was that way for like both sides. And so I very early on, I was like, I am my own person. Like, I'm not defined by culture or race or anything. And like, I never really experienced any issues with that until England. God, I literally remember when the first time where someone literally came up to me and like really brought like my race or my background or how light-skinned I am, like, to me, was in church in Newcastle. So it was quite late in my life, and talking about hair, and I've got really big hair, and I've got like 4B kind of hair. Like, I don't have, what a lot of black people used to consider good hair, supposedly, like I've got really big, really thick hair. And I was in church, and this girl was like complaining, this black girl, African girl, was complaining about her hair. And I was like, yeah, I hate doing mine. And she was like, what do you hate about it? You're light skinned, you don't relate. And I was like, oh.
So it was actually an African.
Yeah, it was African. Yeah, she was like, you don't relate to it. And obviously, like, I don't wear my hair out a lot, but my mom, since I was very young, has always done her hair. Every single week when I was a kid, I used to get my hair done. She used to do my hair. My mom's really good at all those styles. She did my edges every morning before school. Like, I was, I was like, she did everything. Like, she did my brother's dreadlocks. I had braids. I got everything that I ever wanted. So, like, my hair was always done. Like, I never had a moment in time where I was like, hair's not done. The only time that ever happened was when I was in charge of my hair because I thought I was a big girl and I didn't do it. But like, I would never had an experience like that. So I don't think, because I always seem to have my hair done, people just assume, oh, my hair's easy to do. But it's like, no, it wasn't. And having that comment is when I was first like, dang, do people see me different because of my skin color and because of where my mom is? Because to me, my mom is black. I don't know what it is. Like, in my mind, my mom has always been black. Like, when you see, like, those posts on Instagram about, like, how your mom, like, treats you, or, like, getting beat or stuff like that. Like, those are things that I associate with my mom. Like, those stereotypical, like, black things I've experienced with my mom. Specifically, like, stereotypical, like, black American things I've always experienced my mom. Like, I've never missed out on that experience, I would say. So, like, I never saw it as I'm mixed or I'm light skinned or I'm this or I'm that or I'm better than. And so in Newcastle was when I first started, and then I went to school, and there was this girl in school. And she used to always say, I'm not naming no names. If you know me, don't come for me. But she would always come to me, and she was like, you think you're better than us because you're light skinned. And I promise you, hand on my heart, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't do nothing. Yeah. I would just make like a joke. I would tease whatever, like normal, like we would just joke around, and then I would just come out, and I would literally be like, what? Like, why would you even say that? Yeah. Like, that's so weird. And then, you know, also makes you uncomfortable, because it's like, oh, I can't make no jokes because I don't want people to feel like, and then I would go to like my friend, and like one of my friends now, Rui, he'd always tell me, he'd be like, it's not that deep. He was like, you're not saying anything, you're not coming across that way, like, but in the back of your mind, it really just like, like, I can't say shit, you know, because of the way I look, even though that's nothing to do with me. Yeah. So I wouldn't say I necessarily had like a crisis, but like it made me like at some point take a step back and just be like, maybe I can't just be chilling with everyone the way that I thought I could be chilling with everyone, because I don't want to ever come across that way, you know? And it's like, maybe I need to be like acting different, but...
Do you feel those comments came out of a insecurity place? And do you feel like African community are still insecure, like when it comes to their skin color? It's a very like sensitive topic.
Like obviously because I didn't really grow up in the culture, but from what I've seen on the outside is like, I don't know, like what I obviously from like reading things online and stuff like that and experience things, I wouldn't say like it's insecurity, but like it's preference kind of. And I have seen in Holland, like I have seen people bleaching, like skin bleaching. I've seen that like a couple of times.
No way.
Yeah, like it was, and it wasn't like, it wasn't weird, but people just knew and no one just really talked about it. And because I didn't grow up with culture, like I can't say it's like specifically an African thing, but I do see that lighter is preferred. Like I think with my grandma, she preferred, and I don't know what reason it was, if she didn't like my mom, if she just didn't like me, but I think she preferred my cousins who are white over me and my sister. And what's called, like, obviously when you're young, that hurts. Now I'm like, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because I've got people that love me. I've got, like, another grandma who loves me, you know, and I love her so much. And she's fully white. She's fully Dutch white. And she, like, loves me to the ends of the earth, you know? And so it's like, I don't feel like that lost there. But I would say from what I've seen, that sometimes that wanting to be light skinned, it's promoted by social media. It's promoted by music for like decades. In the 90s, it was huge. Now, early 2000s, huge. Yeah. You know, 2010s, huge. Like, it's always, you know, that up-and-coming thing. Like, even, like, famous singers, female singers, Beyonce, Mariah Carey, thingy, lighter skinned, you know? Yeah. And it's like, I feel like that's kind of why I think people really internalize that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Because what it gets to be glamorized is definitely the light skin color.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, and even like, you know, rap songs referencing to it, light skin girl, what's called red bone, yellow, like all of that stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. Did you feel that way? Did you ever feel like you're in a crisis, or like feel like, I feel different because I'm lighter skinned?
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like I'm still going through. Actually, ever since I met you, I've been able to kind of dissect some things about me, because obviously you like, you're questioning me and you're putting out things that I never even thought about. So thank you for being my therapist, free of charge, by the way.
I love asking questions.
But yeah, I think this goes like once again back to that idea of never being fully accepted as just one ethnicity, always being like mixed, but you know, in one place I'm considered this, and
too white for black people, too black for white people. Yeah,
definitely. So majority of the time I lived in Portugal, so most of the crisis that I had about was around my black traits. For example, I would have boys coming to me and say, oh, and you know, you're really pretty, but like your nose is too wide.
Wow.
Yeah, like your nose is too wide, or they wouldn't actually comment on my skin.
Yeah, but
because
it was just the microaggressions, like those little things.
Yeah,
where
the
it's
things
like,
are actually, you're light skinned, but these black things about you, like, I don't like it.
It's too black.
Yeah, it's too black. My nose, or like my forehead, or you know what I mean, like things that normally associated with black,
stereotypically,
as a black trait. So growing up, I had a big like dilemma, like not dilemma, like a bit insecurity around my nose.
Wow.
But then there were other African traits that were celebrated. For example, lips. The facial structure. So there was a balance.
I think that's always so interesting. Like, it's always pick and choose.
Yeah, pick and choose. Yeah.
They want you to have like smaller nose, lips, but big boobs, big butt.
Just make yourself a Kardashian.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? At this point, be a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly.
It's insane.
So I think my identity crisis was more around physical traits than actually like personality-wise, because I've always been like confident on my personality.
Period.
Oh, thank you. And I've always been very confident on what I need to continue improving and what is already like
self-aware.
Good enough. Yeah, exactly. But one thing that I lacked was that I never tried to make other people aware of their like these microaggressions that they were doing, like against my either like black ethnicity, or even when I'm back home in Angola, talking about like my white ethnicity traits. Like,
is there a reason?
I think I'm confident, but not that too confident.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not like my mom. My mom is the like stereotypical black confident woman. She just say whatever she has to say. She just take it out from her heart, and that's it. It's settled. Let's settle here, and that's done. For me, I take it from my dad, because I grew up with my...
Oh, right. Yeah, a little bit more passive.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up with my Portuguese family. So from the year 6 till I was 18, and I'm still around them, obviously, when I go back home.
Yeah.
I grew up with them. So what they taught me is obviously be more passive, you know, never voice it out too much, never express yourself too much, just, you know, work it with yourself, like in your mind. So that's one thing that probably I'm jealous about, like regarding my mom. Like, I wish I was a bit more like you.
I think it's called. It's like it's being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
you know, like that's like I think where it comes from.
I hate being uncomfortable.
But I hate it. Life, that's what life is. Like improving is literally being comfortable. I think the reason why I've got a huge mouth, and it's because my sister huge. I talk, I chat, everyone, like, honestly, I have no shame in it. I know it. But it's because the reason, because my sister was as shy as you. And if I don't care. If I found out about something that happened in first period and I found out at lunch, I'm addressing that at lunch. Yeah. I don't care if you guys made friends in between. We're beefing at lunch because I found out about it. I've got something to say, you know? And I think people be so confused. I'm like, no. I'm like, 2 hours ago, you said this to my sister and you think I let this go. And so obviously, like, when you're around someone that's so passive and she does not address her problems, it's like I had to chat the mouth for the both of us. And like it literally started when I was 2 years old. I was trying to fight my sister's bullies at 2 years old, going on the playground trying to fight people. My mom always tells a story. And it's like, I think it's just like being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, because people especially try to gaslight you. Like, you know, if they're like microaggression, no, but I didn't mean like that. I just meant like thinking, no, you meant what you meant. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? You just don't like that you could call out on it. Because now you feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And now you just want to let it go. But it's like, no, like we're going to address this because it needs to be addressed. You know, and I definitely think obviously there's like a right time and a place. Yeah. But sometimes some things just need to be said, you know. And as well, like I think that is what's really important, I think, for like black kids to learn, black teens to learn. And this is coming from someone, once again, who isn't that close to their family, right? So just everyone keep that in mind. But sometimes things need to be said to your family members, especially if you're mixed, especially if you come from a really, like, not controlling, but a culture that does things a traditional way, you know? Me. Yeah, like, I think it's what's called... once again, I know I might be biased to this because I didn't grow up, like, with a strong culture. But I find it really important, like when I see a lot of obviously trauma that kids have or issues that they have or insecurities that they have are passed down from your parents. And I also understand, like, me and my mom at a level, we have always talked about everything. And so we're at a level, like, if my mom says something, even if she doesn't mean it that way, I'll be like, that sounds a little bit racist. Or I'm like, that was not very positive. I don't like the way you said that about my hair. Like, you know. And then she'll be like, oh, no, but I meant it. And then just her explaining, I'm like, I understand what you were trying to say, you know, because at the end of the day, she is an immigrant and she still struggles with language sometimes. But I think that it's really important to be having these conversations with your parents. Because you don't be taking insecurities that your parents are giving you, because they're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, who are they? They made you.
Yeah, only when I was 19, I started actually expressing myself and addressing some things. For example, to my white grandma, saying, like, I don't like when they say these things. Yeah, because, for example, I have my cousin, and she's, like, even whiter than me. She has more, even, like, she's light-skinned as well, but she has more...
whiter features.
Exactly. Yeah. And she always comes and say, oh, but her hair is nicer.
Oh, my God.
You know what I mean?
Or,
oh, she has, like, a more beautiful nose or something like that. And I'm very sensitive when it comes to my nose because of all these, like, insecurities. Obviously. So only when I was 19, I actually started saying, like, why are you saying such a thing like that? Like, why are you comparing us? Like, just because what's the reason behind for you not to like this? It just reminds you of black features or something like that. And she always, no, don't start with that racist conversation. But mom, you grandma, you kind of sounding it.
People tend to, like, gaslight as well and be like, oh, you're being too sensitive. No, I'm addressing problems. Yeah, like, I'm addressing issues and possible, what's called, what's that word? Oh my gosh, what is that word when you project something on someone else? Stereotypes. Like, certain stereotypes you're projecting, like, just because you feel a certain type of way, you're projecting a stereotype on someone. Well, because you have a nose that looks like this, you're, you know. And it's like, that's not being sensitive. Like, those things need to be addressed.
And this even applies to, like, for example, black mothers. I've seen around me black mothers, like, they themselves are tearing apart their own kids because they're not white enough.
Yeah, like, I've seen it with friends. Just things like when it's like, oh, like, you're not. And just even, like, just gender things. Like, you don't do this enough. You don't cook enough. You don't do this enough. But then their sons don't do anything. Yeah. You know? Or it's like, look at your hair. But the mom has the exact same hair as her daughter. Yeah. And it's like, you have the exact same hair. Like, it's your responsibility to take care of your child. Yeah. Like, why would you complain about her hair? Like, if you don't like it, like, get it done. Learn how to do it. Something like, you know what I mean? And I feel like... it's so toxic and it's generational.
But they don't even realize they being racist to their own.
I think that stems from insecurity. I don't think it's necessarily like racism, but I think it's insecurity because they don't like their hair. Like, I've seen, like, black mothers with relaxed hair, like, broken off relaxed hair, whatever, be like to their daughter with natural hair, wants to keep their natural hair. Like, oh, that's too much. It's not nice. And it's like, it's natural. How can natural be too much? How can that ever be negative? Definitely. Like, that is her. That is literally the child that you birthed. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you ever talk down about that? And I think it's literally just because they've always been taught that's not good. Yeah. You know, like, having
there's a lot of emotional damage.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, society, like, oh yeah, society is going to accept you. And I feel like sometimes it's also misplaced, like, protection. Like, they think, oh, yeah, like, if she does her hair like this, she's less likely to get bullied. Or if she does this, she's less likely to go through that. And it's like, at some point, someone's going to need to address this. And society, at some point, does have to change. And it's like, if your daughter's comfortable wearing her natural hair, you shouldn't make her feel insecure. If something happens at school, you can address that after. But let her feel confident enough to wear that, you know? Yeah. And I think that's really, really important.
So, I think there's, like, issues from... all ethnicities to acknowledge each one.
Definitely. Like,
singularity.
I think on my, like, Asian side, like, my grandma definitely, I feel like, has wants to lean towards the white side. She doesn't really, like, acknowledge, as far as I know, obviously I haven't spent that much time with her, but as far as I know, she doesn't really acknowledge her culture. She doesn't want to be, like, associated with it. Like, she's, like, not in contact with that side at all. And I think that's also part of the reason, like, my mom lost a lot of, like, her cultural heritage because her mom didn't think that was good. Like, my mom used to be able to speak, like, the traditional language. And then at school, they told my grandma, oh, yeah, like, you need to teach her Dutch because she's not doing good in, like, languages, in, like, Dutch, basically. And her mom was like, yeah, you can completely right, and just completely stop talking her own language. And my mom lost it. And it's like, because there's no like pride in you know, like in where you come from, in your culture. Yeah. And it's like, I think it's really disappointing. It's very, very disappointing.
It is. I'm gonna move to the next question for you. So obviously, as you said, you're a full-time student.
Yes.
And yes, you never grew up with a specific culture.
Yeah.
But you identify with a lot of cultures. So you have in you a lot of cultures.
Yeah.
Just not one strictly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But picking your Black ethnicity, so Black culture, so as a Black student, have you ever felt like, have you ever experienced any negative, besides that previous episode that you talk about, that your friend, that insecure friend of yours that was always pointing out that you light skin, like
as a Black student,
what things what struggles have you encountered, and how do you manage to overcome them?
As a student, I wouldn't say being Black has affected me or negatively affected me in any way. That could be because most teachers were scared of my mom. I'm gonna be very, very honest with you. Like, my mom,
she's the boss.
She's a very scary little lady. And like, me and mom have always been in a really, really good relationship. So good. My mom will always believe me over any teacher. Yeah. You can't tell her nothing about her child, because I'm gonna be honest. If I did something wrong, or if I cuss, I'm gonna tell my mom, listen, I cuss. Like, it's my fault. Let me go to detention. She'd be like, well, off.
And do you feel like is that counterpart from your mom that made you such a confident person?
Most definitely.
Because I didn't grow up with my mom, and I can see.
I think that was a huge difference. Like, I was not scared of nobody. Nobody could tell me nothing. No teacher could tell me nothing about nothing. Because if my mom said it's A, it's A. I don't care if you tell me it's B, C, or D. If she says A, it's A. I don't care. Yeah. You know,
that's
and so
beautiful.
Yeah, so a lot of teachers, like, anytime someone, sometimes I feel like they were singling me out. Like, I remember one time in sixth. Yo, my mom was crazy. It's actually bad. One time in sixth form, this teacher, we were supposed to be in a quiet room, right? But I was with the Black girls, and we were just talking, and we were like kind of loud. But there was a white group behind us, and they was talking as well. And then this teacher came in and was like yelling at all of us to be quiet. Okay. Like, we were quiet, whatever. And then, like, we started, like, whispering amongst us stuff. He goes to us while the white kids are still talking. Oh, yeah, be quiet. He's, like, yelling at us. Automatically. And I'm like, they're talking. And he goes, you just need to focus on yourself and do your work. I was like, oh, guess who's going to hear about this? My mother, right? So I'm texting my mom. And he's like, and so I will sit back because I was already over it. Like, it's sixth form. It's my lunch break. I don't need to do nothing. Or it was, like, my period break, whatever. And he was like, can you even see your work from there? I was like, yeah, I don't need glasses. Like, I can see my work, you know? And I told my mom this, right? I messaged my mom. I called mom. I was like, this teacher said this. And the white kids behind us were talking. And he didn't say anything to them. And I was going crazy. My mom came into school. She went to my tutor. And she was like, I want to talk. I'm not going to name names. But I want to talk to Mr. So-and-so. Because I don't know why he's singling out my daughter. I don't know why he's talking to her like that. He's talking to her crazy disrespectfully. He said there was no need to do that. He could have just asked nicely. They're grown kids. Because obviously at sixth form, you're like, 17, 18. Like, you're grown. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, I don't know why he's talking to my daughter like that. Like, there's no need to be talking to anyone like that. So he goes, yeah, like, he's going to set something up. And then that was enough. So my mom sent a long letter. My mom wrote like 3 pages. I folded the page up. She put them in a letter for me. I left them on his desk. I said, here you go. It's from my mother. And what's called, and whatever, by the by, he came up to me and he apologized.
Wow.
She
really stood up for you.
Yeah, my mom's very respectful with it and very classy with it, but it's like, don't call me out my name. Yeah, because at the age 16, I was living by myself. So I was a grown adult, you know? And so it's like, I didn't disrespect you. We don't know each other like that because it wasn't even my teacher. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I've never had an issue with you. I've always been very respectful to you. Don't call me out my name. Mm-hmm. Because, like, the same way you need to be here, I don't need to be here. You know? Like, you got a job, I got a job. You got a house, I had a house. Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't think you're better than me just because I'm a student. Like, don't do that. And I never liked that. And my mom doesn't like that either because, you know, respect is given, you know? Like, as the way it has to be returned to be given. So... Mm-hmm. that happened, and he apologized. And I think that was the only time where I was like, that might have been racially motivated, because the way he was telling us to be quiet, he was not giving that same energy there. But I never had no issues with no one. And I think it's because my mom was really involved. My mom was very, very involved. She knows my teacher. She knows my professor. She's always there. Like, everything is being communicated through her, kind of like. So I think when people see you've got someone behind you, they're less likely to do something, especially someone that they're like, oh, this could be something, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, like, I never really, like, had that problem. Like, anytime I felt like teacher would treat me unfairly, I would call my mum. And teachers knew it. My drama teacher would tell me, she'd be like, call your mom. Like, not like rude, but if she saw me beefing with another teacher, she would just be like, Casey, go to side, call your mom. And I'll call my mom. And she's coming, and we're gonna talk about this, we're gonna sort this out. And if it doesn't get sorted out, my mom pulls me from school. And we're gonna wait till we have our conversation. We sit down like adults and we talk about this, because, like, I feel like teachers sometimes think just because you're a teacher, you're allowed to speak to people any kind of way. You are, you know? And that's not how it works, you know?
No, it's not.
And so I think it's that, like, my mom's always believed in communication, you know?
Yes, that's a big thing. That's a big thing that I've learned from my parents' mistakes, actually.
I learned, like, my mom was the one that taught me, like, communication. She's like, talk about it before it's beef, talk about it. And if it's beef after you talk about it, you better get ready for beef, you know? Yeah. It's like, there's no shame in fighting, throwing hands once in a while. But before that, you must have talked about it. And, you know, I've always taken that route, like, we're going to talk about it 1, 2, maybe 3 times. And after that, if you still want to have problems, we can have problems. Yeah. But, like, it always has to be that. And, like, always keep proof. I keep proof of everything. That's what someone told me. Any contact I've had with a teacher, proof of it. Wow. You know, like, I'm very like
you
that.
You really know how to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been well trained.
Yeah, my mom knew. She's like, everything you need to, don't ever call anyone, have everything on email, have everything on text message, take screenshots of everything, keep it stored. If anyone ever asks for anything, you just pull it up. And she's like, my mom is, she's
leaving. She's way ahead of us.
Literally.
She's way ahead of us.
But it's good to learn. And I think that's kind of like why I've never had problems. Obviously, I also think, and this is going to might be controversial, but I do understand I also have some kind of privilege, because, you know, like, pretty privilege is a thing. What's called being light-skinned.
You are very pretty.
Thank you. I wasn't going to post thingy, but, like, that's the thing. And also, like, I think being light-skinned does come with privileges as well. Yeah. You know, so I can't...
Especially back then.
Yeah. You know, so I can't 100%. Sit here and pretend like, oh, yeah, my mom was the only reason. Like, no, I understand, like, it came with other... You know, there was other things that I had, I'm not going to ignore that. Yeah. But how about you?
Yeah. That what you just said definitely applies to me, because there were situations where, for example, I had to visit my mom over the weekend. And they were, you know, those little, it's like, it's not homeless people, but you know those, they just
they're just there,
Yeah, literally. And sometimes we were, like, in the train station waiting for the train to come, and they would, like, curse at my mom, obviously, you know. And we're
really?
like, and I'm standing there. They would curse my mom and my little sister, because my little sister, she's darker than me, like.
Oh my God.
And me, I'm light skinned. I was just standing there, like.
They would the N-word.
Definitely, yeah. But that only happened, like, once or twice, but gave me the experience, like
you saw.
Yeah, I have the privilege because I'm not that dark. So 100% that situation applies to me. But one thing, this is a bit off topic, but one thing that I'm gonna comment about is that definitely I feel like my insecurities with my black traits comes from the fact that I never grew up with a black identity like next to me, with someone black. I never grew up with my mom, and obviously my mother's side is the only black side that I have. So never growing up with a mom 100% had an impact on the way I not glamorize, but the way I appreciate my black traits. So yeah, I'm just gonna say that you're very, very, very lucky and privileged to have such a bond with your mom.
Yeah, the thing is, like, obviously my mom is Asian.
Because sorry, no, go ahead. 100% my mom, like your mom, just like remembering your mama. She's very overprotective in the sense of, you're my child. Yeah. I'm gonna keep you. Yeah, I'm gonna fight for you no matter what. But obviously once we come back home, she would fight me like, what you did was wrong. I protect you, but what you did was wrong.
It's at home, you know, you're united outside, you're at home.
Yeah, exactly. What was I saying? Forgot.
I was just gonna say what's called, like, obviously I grew up with an Asian mom, so she wasn't black. But although I didn't grow up with my culture, my mom, I am heavily influenced by Black American culture. Yeah. That's how I grew up. Like, my mom made it what she thought was the most important thing, that I associate with the culture.
Oh, okay.
Because like not necessarily like a culture as in like tradition, but as in I know where I come from. I'm not no light skin. I'm up in the clouds, kind of, you know, like oh la di da. Like I don't know where I'm come from, and I'm Dutch because I'm not Dutch, you know. Like I'm mixed. I need to be proud of where I come from. But obviously she like we were living in England, so she put me in Black American history courses.
Wow.
So I learned like, and it was like school at home basically, and I learned Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all of that really young. And because I didn't have a TV until I was 10, a lot of the books I read were educational books. So I learned Uncle Tom's Cabin, all of that, like those kind of books. I read them very, very young to kind of like get an understanding of the struggle and the pain and what it took for Black people to get to where they were. And my mom really wanted me to know that. And like, anything racist, like I wasn't very good at picking up on racist things at first, you know. My mom really had to tell me, like, was like, no, they don't say that about you, they don't see. And when I was young, like, I'm a very, you know, lighthearted person. Like I joke around a lot, so sometimes I'll just take things as like, you know, la di da, but she'd be like, no, you don't say that, or they don't say that. And it was like, she really told me that. She really spent time, like, all my mom listens to is Black artists basically. Since I was young, I learned gospel, like. And then, so when I lived in Holland, I did go to I was around my Black family, and they had like a traditional Black Pentecostal church. So like the catching the spirit, falling on the floor, dancing in church, gospel, Kirk Franklin, like that is, I was in that, I was what's called like dancing with flags in church. I was doing the whole nine when I was there, you know? So it's like that Black culture, like I do really relate to that, but it's not like Black UK culture. It's very much Black American culture. And then when I moved to England, my mom always made sure to have like Black people around us, because obviously like that's you know, we need to have someone to relate to. And then it was very much Jamaican culture. And so, but at the same time, because my island is close to the Caribbean, it was very much like, you know, very much like, oh, that's kind of like where we come from, you know. And she played our traditional music. I'm not gonna lie though, no clue about our actual traditions, about our wedding traditions, no clue about what kind of clothes we wear, you know. But I know where I come from, and like my brothers were very much into the Jamaican culture as well. So I was listening to dancehall from like the age of 9. Like they was playing dancehall in the morning. Like I was very much immersed in it, but more like Jamaican and American culture than ever like my actual culture. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I appreciate that because
that's the thing. While I was growing up, the only Black culture that I knew was Angolan. I had no awareness around South Africa and Mozambique. I don't know if you ever heard about
Mozambique.
Or even like some people don't consider African country, but they consider African Moroccan, which is a big. Really, it's a big culture in Africa. So Moroccan.
Where you came from? Were there not like a lot of Black kids? Like where you were raised?
So I lived in Angola till I was 6. Yeah, and then Portugal.
And then, but in Portugal, where you lived in Portugal?
I was me and my brother. We were the only Black kids.
Right, because I was gonna say, I was like, how did you not know that? But if you were the only Black kids growing up, God. So how was school?
I mean, it was okay because I feel like Portugal is not very. I don't consider very like intense. Like there's not a lot of intensity when it comes to racism. Like people don't even. Yeah, that's the thing. People don't even think about it at the same time.
Wow. Yes. I disagree. Holland's completely different people.
I know. We already had that. Next episode. But in Portugal, it's very lightweight vibe. Like people don't actually. Because I feel like it's very Angola was colonized by Portugal, and then you had a great like influx of people going to Portugal, obviously, immigration and all that. So there was not a lot of like beef between. There's no like separation, like for example in South Africa where you had the apartheid and we didn't have that. So people have, because it's a very warm country as well, and people are more like welcome in a sense, but definitely if you actually read between the lines, they would have subtle things. Yeah, but I wasn't aware of that because the only like the mainstream culture that I was being raised to was Portuguese. Right. So my mind is Portuguese, you know. Yeah. My mind is only when I go back home is that when I'm around my mom, I'm able to like to get some inputs from African culture. But because growing up, I lived with my white Portuguese grandparents. Me and my brother, we were the only Black kids in the town. in the school as well, you don't really have necessarily someone to compare. Oh, this is being white, this is being black.
Do you feel like a loss in regard to that?
A loss?
Yeah, like not being in touch.
Yeah.
Really?
100%. 100%. And especially because of the beef there is around my family, and the fact that I haven't been back home to Africa in 7 years and all that. I don't even have much contact with family from that side, or even my sister that she's over there.
So being in England, because obviously then you're away from Portugal and Angola, does that make you feel further away from it, or does that allow you to kind of explore in a different way?
I'm just alone. I'm just me and my book alone. We're just traveling alone and figuring out life together. That's another thing that's a completely different story. But growing up with parents with completely different cultural backgrounds. No, growing up without parents, especially, and they had already their differences. I felt like I never was enough for anything. And I had to learn everything for myself. And I have Joana when I'm with my Portuguese family, and then I have Joana when I'm with my African family. But I'm never enough for each. I'm always made sure, I'm always reassured that I'm never enough. Either because, for example, I don't dance African enough, or because I don't talk European enough, or my conduct is not European enough. Or again,
Do you feel like that's enforced by your family, things that they say?
Growing up, 100%. Growing up 100%, because with my especially with my grandma, she was very into making me realize that I was not white, or a white grand. She loves me.
Obviously, yeah.
She she definitely
different generation.
Yeah, she did a lot of sacrifices for me, and we're not even questioning that. It's just again, it's the way they were raised.
Yeah, generational. It's different.
Yeah, 100%. So, growing up 100%, my grandma always made me feel a bit
Obviously, we do want to say you definitely are enough. Of course you are, of course, just definitely
we cannot turn this into therapy.
I know this guy is so deep, but that's something obviously I do want to say, and I feel it's so interesting, and the more and more mixed kids that do come into the world, it's insane how many people do feel like that.
Yeah,
and I just want to say to all the parents out there having mixed babies,
yeah,
if you guys can't accept each other's
just
cultures, or embrace it. Don't have a mixed child.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you obviously you're amazing right now as you are, but to have grown up without it, that is a loss. And you you might have felt more in touch, or felt more belonging if you had. And I feel that's something that was not in a disrespectful way, but put onto your parents, and they should have been
100%,
listen, we're gonna take you where we need to take you, to parties, to wherever they need to be at, museums, read books, things.
100%.
Yeah, because you don't know any better as a kid. Obviously, you're just growing up, you're just living life.
And I think that was the biggest struggle of my life, is just learning everything by myself, learning through my mistakes. It's just too much for a kid.
Yeah.
To be able to realize that, when you're with these people, you have to act this way. But when you're that people, you need to act this way. But, you know what I mean? Never cross both personalities or both cultures. And then another thing, this is personal, obviously. The fact that my mom, she didn't really like the way my grandparents were raising me,
right?
Obviously, because she was raised by completely different standards. But then when I would go to Angola for summer holidays, 3 months. Obviously, after 3 months being in touch with my first family, some things kind of come back. My accent my African accent comes back, the way I act and all that, and then they start
and they want to change that.
Yeah, they want to change that. Oh, at least they point out, your accent now, you're acting like you're speaking like an African. Why? What happened? So that was a lot for me to actually endure and analyze myself. So
definitely, I think for me it was more I had that split with religion. I think religion played a big part in my life.
Yeah, that's another thing. Is one thing is African when we're talking about African countries, there's like other subcategories.
Literally, it's insane.
Yeah,
like
it's not just
African,
being black that makes
African
you.
that's Muslim is completely different to African that's Christian, and then you've got different types of Christian, different types of Muslim, and it's just like
it's too.
Yeah, and then it's also like my family. I feel like my family, my black family, kind of let go of their traditional heritage to just accept Christianity fully, you know, and it's like they didn't feel like. Just FYI, like I would say my family, my black family is like radical Christians. Like not at all. When people think of Christian, they're not thinking of my family. Like when you're thinking radical, that's when you're thinking of my family. Like you know, girls need to wear skirts, shoulders can't be showing. You need to marry in the church. Your friends can only be from the church. Like that kind of like radical. You know, Disney's from the devil, Sponge from the devil. That kind of radical. Yeah. And I feel like they really let go of their culture to just be like Christian. Then that is it. Like, you know, like and it kind of made it like it villainized being cultural, you know?
Yeah.
Because like, no, you can't listen to worldly music that's not from God.
Yeah.
And you can't wear those clothes because they're not like covering enough. But it's like that's your tradition, it's your culture, that's where you come from, you know? But I think
do you feel like that experience like that experience with your grandparents made you 100% like decide to not fit into one box, like culturally?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Because what's called like my Indonesian family, they weren't Indonesian. You know, I felt like my grandma really wanted to be white, you know. And then my black family, they just wanted to be Christian. They wanted to be identified by nothing but Christian, you know, apostles from God. That's what they wanted to be. And it's like, dude, if y'all were given a gift and you can't even embrace or appreciate that, then let me do me, you know? Like, I'm not going to identify myself as just a Christian and let go of any culture. Instead, I was like, I'm going to embrace everything, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, now, like, I wouldn't say I'm from any religion. Like, I'm spiritual. Mm-hmm. I have interest. I find it so... Islam, I find it such an interesting religion. I respect it so much. Christianity, because of my family, there's a little bit, you know, it's a rocky road there. You know, I don't have as much respect for it, if I'm going to be honest. But that's not because of like the actual Bible or actual Christian. It's
just
like,
your personal experience, yeah.
Yeah, it's like what I've experienced with the people that call themselves Christian. Yeah. It's not the religion, it's the followers, you know? Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people do have that kind of like experience with religion. And like I feel like that has really pushed me to be like, listen, I don't want to be that. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be the other side of it either. So I just want to be me. And I want to enjoy whatever I want to enjoy. And I want to be part of everyone. And, you know, like, I never, like... Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm, like, being honest, I miss the possibility of having a tradition. Like, when I see people having traditional weddings or, like, Nigerian weddings are insane.
Yeah.
Are insane.
They're beautiful.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I went to one, I was like, oh, my God. I might have to become Nigerian to have this wedding. Like, I decided. Or, like, Indian weddings. Insane.
I know,
and
gorgeous.
Then there's me. And I'm like, I don't even know what we do. And the thing is, because my Christian family, they don't even do their own traditions for the wedding. They do a like, literal just Christian wedding. Mm-hmm. That's all you're getting. You're not getting, like, any culture in it. And I feel like I would love to have something like that. Mm-hmm. But... I appreciate where I've come without having that. And I also love the fact that I wasn't held back by any expectation. Mm-hmm. You know, my only expectation was to be myself.
That's nice.
You know, that's like, I love that from my mom. Like, I didn't, like, my sister, people was like, oh, she's so different. And I feel like why is she so different is because we were just expected to be ourselves. I feel like obviously a lot of people act similar when you're from the same culture because of certain expectations and a certain ways and style you dress and the way you talk. Yeah. But for me and my sister, we sound different. We have completely different interests. We dress different, everything, because we were just expected to be ourselves. Like,
that's the beauty of your education.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there was nothing. We never had to be anything else or achieve anything just out of, like, principle or dress a certain way because of principle. Yeah. As long as we looked good, it was calm. You know what I'm saying? That was it. Like, as long as we looked good and we knew how to take care of ourselves, that was it, you know? And I tease my sister. I tease my sister a lot when she was young, but that's just me. But just about, like, small things, like her interests in music. She loves the Beatles. She loves, like ABBA, the 70s. I can appreciate one or two songs, but she just plays it 24/7 and she just jams out, or like rock and roll, like
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Pepper. And I'm like, me and Mama look at each other like, I don't know where this happened, because she grew up on dancehall and 90s R&B, you know. But that's her, and it's just like she feels comfortable enough to be that way around with us, you know. And that's like really that's really beautiful, I think. And you know, I think like for me personally, like if I have children, God willing, if I don't, it is what it is. But when I have children, I want to raise them that way as well. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to feel...
You don't want to impose them any standards,
because I feel like there's like... Because I'm more into the Black culture, I feel like there's like an expectation to be doctors and you know, be in like IT and stuff like that. And no, if you want to be an artist, be an artist. If you want to be, you know... But it's like it takes... It's that cultural element of it. It's like, oh yeah, my parents expect me to be. But it's like, what do you want to be? And I feel like it's hard to go against culture, you know?
I feel like this is where I feel like I fail now that I'm thinking about it.
What?
Yeah, because growing up, because I've always felt I was never enough. Always I wanted to be, I just wanted to fit into one box. I just wanted to fit in one box. Mm-hmm. It's one of these either Latina or African or whatever. Like
something.
I just wanted to fit into something and be appreciated for that.
Yeah.
But I never managed to, and I always grew up with that frustration. But now, ever since I met you, again, she's my free of charge therapist. Ever since I met you, like, I'm actually embracing.
Yeah, there's beauty in being everything.
Yeah.
There is such beauty in being everything.
There is beauty.
You know
in
what I'm
that.
saying? Like
this is how you give back to community, by the way. It's just, 100%.
Yeah,
just your personality gives away so much. Like, you kind of I'm being honest. You guys need to meet Casey, okay? You guys need to meet Casey. It's just you give back so much with just your life experience, your advices, and that's beautiful from you. And I'm like, congrats to your mom, because she did it.
Excuse me, biomed student gonna be a doctor out here. Honestly, I think we've got interesting stories, and although like we're so similar, we're so different. Yeah. Completely different stories. It is. But somehow ended up at some university in England. Yeah. You know, neither place doing religion. You know what I'm saying? Doing a podcast together. Yeah. You know? I know. And I feel like that's why like this podcast is really like vital to talk about. And we're gonna have next week we'll have a guest, and he's probably got a completely different life experience, exactly, and opinions. And I think that's like really important, you know. And we're gonna maybe go over some of these topics. We're gonna address new topics. We're gonna talk about his journey through life, whatever he's willing to talk about. Uni. Yeah, all of that stuff, you know, growing up Black, growing up with his culture. And yeah, hopefully you guys will get something out of this podcast and the next one. Exactly. Yeah, next time hopefully it'll be a little bit more structured. Exactly. We went off everywhere. We're just diving into it. We're just diving into it. But it was a really nice conversation. Really good. Oh, we did 1 hour. Jesus. Oh my God. We talk a lot. Guys, we talk a lot. Yeah. But I think... Is that the Black in us? Probably. It's coming out, you know. The stereotype might be true. But I think we're going to have some of these, some without video. And then when we have guests, I think we'll just have video so you guys can see them, you know, really feel like, you know, you're part of it. And once again, if you guys are interested in being on the podcast, hit us up on Instagram. Our Instagram's going to be there. Our emails. Only go through the things that you guys feel comfortable talking about. If you're not comfortable doing anything, like anything is off the record, whatever, just let us know. We'll take it off. Like, we won't ask it. Edit it out. Don't worry about it. Again, what we're really trying to do is just bring up these conversations. Yeah, and just comfortable. Yeah, and make them feel easy, flowy, non-judgmental, and and it's because we might address some controversial topics, as there always is with race, but that's alright as long as everyone's respectful, which is important. And it's okay if you make a mistake and you learn from this podcast, you know as I did talking to you right now. I've learned so many things, you know, and that's okay. Yeah, that's basically just the point of this podcast, guys. We didn't address the things we're going to address, but we'll get there. We're going to get there. I promise. We'll see you guys next week. Yeah. Bye. Bye. Bye.